It wasn't you, I want the name. I said, that's the only name you're getting, sir. Accepting responsibility when you screw something up. But as a leader, and you've heard this before, you take blame, you give credit. The fourth one, do something. Do something. I overheard a 2-star mentoring a 1-star. He said, if you don't know what to do, do something. I thought that was incredible advice. Because there's often times that you don't know what to do, and you have to do something. I took that a step further, I think. You've heard that 2 wrongs don't make a right. I changed that to 2 rights don't make a wrong. And let me tell you, that has helped me through the toughest of decisions. 2 rights don't make a wrong. If you do the right thing for the right reason, it can't be wrong. Think about that. Now, someone might not agree with you, but if you do the right thing for the right reason, it can't be wrong. And when I was in the desert, the war lasted 3 weeks. But the funding request for the runway at Jordan took 6 weeks. The reason we submitted the funding request for the runway at Jordan was because they needed it for the war effort. I got a call at 3 in the morning from the Air Force Comptroller office, 3 in the morning desert time, and they said, we need a decision, go, no go, whether this runway needs to be funded. The Comptroller of the Air Force needs to know by 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, crap, I don't even know what time it is here, let alone there, and I can't do the math to figure out when 7 o'clock in the morning is, but by golly, I'll find you an answer. So I go racing out of bed and I find the A7. The A7 is the civil engineer who's going to build a runway. I said, Jim, got a call from Air Staff. They want to know if the runway is a go, no go. Because of the fact that the reason we requested it was because of the war, and oh yeah, the war's over. He says, well, you know, 2-star agreed with the Shah or whatever they are in Jordan, and you know, there's a lot of politics involved. We need that runway. I'm like, yeah, but you know, we got the wrong money on it. And he looks at me and says, looks like you got a problem. So I went to the A4. The A4 is the logistics guy who's going to land on the runway. I said, John, do you need this runway? He goes, yeah. He's like, we're going to use it for after the war. I'm like, yeah, I get all that, but you know, the money was for the war. He's like, yeah, sorry, man. So I canceled the runway because I felt like I was doing the right thing for the right reason. And I found another pot of money that was after the war money. And so we come into staff meeting, and the 3-star who is in charge of the air war throws his book on the table and says, who canceled the runway at Jordan? I'm like, damn, news travels fast. And he points to Jim and he goes, Jim, what do you know about this? And Jim starts talking, and I'm sitting right next to Jim. I go, damn, looks like you got a problem. So I stood up real fast and I started talking a whole lot faster than I am now. And I told him, sir, I'm the one who canceled the runway. And he said, well, you better get that fixed. And so I told him about the other pot of money. And well, by golly, you better get that runway going. Yes, sir, I will. But the only way I think that I was able to make a tough decision like that, because I'm the guy who has to look at me in the mirror, unfortunately, at night, did I make the right decision for the right reason? And it can't be wrong. So the next one is take risks. Take risks. And see, that's an interesting one. Because have you ever been in a meeting and you think they're doing something stupid? Yes. And you want to say something, but as soon as you get up the nerve to say something, your throat dries up, your heart starts beating, and you don't say anything. And then after the meeting, you tell your friend, damn, that was the dumbest thing Stacy could have ever done. But you know what? Stacy hires you. She has you there because she needs you to help think. She can't do it all herself. She's a bright lady, but she needs you guys to think. You know what? It's the fact that you guys are different that makes you so powerful. Because when you get those brains together from different think, you can solve some of those problems. So maybe you speak up at those meetings, because chances are she's not going to throw something at you. I know she's pretty tough. But chances are she's not going to hurt you. She's not going to fire you. What's going to happen? So what happens is your brain is processing all that. Like, well, what if I say something stupid? Well, chances are she might laugh at you. And that's not going to hurt you. Well, what if you say something that's wrong and she says, well, that's wrong? You're still okay, right? You're processing all that risk. What if you say something right? And she says, wow, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So I was the director of budget at Education and Training Command. And it was like my first day, and I had to go to the 3 Stars meeting. And they wanted to buy an $8 million something or other that I felt like I could get air staff to pay for if we just slowed our roll. And so they're all like high-fiving each other, and I raised my hand. I said, excuse me, sir, but do we need that today? And the 3-star looked at me and said, who are you? Oh, sir, I'm your director of budget. I said, do we need that today? He goes, well, no. I said, well, you know, if we waited a month, we could maybe convince someone else to pay our bill for us. And he looked at us, he looked at the guys, but they had already made the decision. He said, well, the decision's already made. I'm like, well, we just made it. Why don't we unmake it? Well, they went ahead with that, and I felt kind of dumb, but I kept my job. But I felt like, you know, I got the dry throat and all that, but I felt like my job is to tell you what I think. It's not going to be emotional for me, well, you know, a little bit, but it wasn't that if you don't take my advice. And so we have to think about the risk associated with speaking up, because that's what they pay us for. Okay, I don't know how I'm doing on time, but I'm probably like, 20 minutes. Yeah. Whatever. So the next one is brag about your people. Brag about your people. And so in the Air Force, when big dogs come to visit us, they make us clean the offices. And we clean the offices real good, and then the big dogs never make it. And everyone's all disappointed. So when I got to be in charge of big dog agendas, big job itineraries, I made sure that the first place they came was to my office so I could brag about my people. And whether they got the B1 orientation right or not, I didn't really care. But I was going to take time to tell them about my people. And I would say, sir, ma'am, this is Joy. She's our inaugural leadership GS7 person. And she's kicking butt in this new program. And what do you do?
Division chief.
And this is, what's your name?
Todd Sharp.
And this is Todd, and he's sharp.
Get dull a lot.
And I would say something nice about Todd if I could come up with something. Just kidding. And you know what? People recognize that you care about them because you took the time to not only get to know them, but to then brag about them. And what I've seen from experience is when I go bragging about my folks to senior leaders that come through, they sit a little taller. they care a little bit more. They go, you know what? If he cares about me, I care about him. Man, it doesn't get any more pure of leadership than that. All right, so the next one, I wrote down emotions, because I was going to tell you something about emotions. And then as I started thinking about it, I came up with 6 different things about emotions. So you really get more than 10 things, overall. Because, 3 had 2, and you're not paying attention. So I think we have to understand the power of emotions. Showing emotions is sometimes considered a sign of strength. As a leader, it kind of shows some vulnerability, and your people think, okay, this guy's real. This gal's real. He or she cares enough about us to be vulnerable like that. I mean, don't frickin' cry all the time. But letting your emotions control you is a sign of weakness. So that's kind of interesting. Who did that? Good thing I have these memorized. Showing them is a sign of strength, but letting them control you is a sign of weakness. So then don't let emotions outweigh your intelligence. Because what's so interesting about that is your brain will disconnect from your mouth, and you're going to start saying stuff you wish you'd never said because you got all emotional about it. Think about those times. So control your emotions. Work to control them. My son is currently an Air Force pilot. I taught him about controlling emotions, and he needs those when he's flying a plane in combat. He needs to be able to control his emotions. And he is ice. But he is controlling them so much, it's like, dude, you're home. Are you happy? Are you sad? I need something. So don't control them so much that folks can't read you. And then I wrote down, be a mirror of emotions. Has anyone ever read Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People? Good. There's a section in there about being a mirror of emotions. And so when you're trying to talk to folks who maybe are upset and don't want to talk to you, if you're a mirror of the emotion that you see, like, what's your name, sir? George. If I'm trying to talk to George and he's angry, I might go, George seemed a little bit angry today. And he's like, yeah, I'm really pissed off. Yeah. He'll do that George thing, where he shakes his jowls. Just kidding, man. And then you go, so then you step back and you mirror another emotion. You go, it seems like it's frustrating you a bit. And then George is going to start talking. And you got to let George talk because he's got to talk. Now, guys, remember that, don't take this wrong, ladies, because I get this all the time from my wife. I don't need you to fix anything. I just need you to listen. Okay, so sometimes there's that. You just got to figure out when that is. But you want to get someone to talk so you can find out what's like making them so crazy. Now, the trick here is you got to listen and keep feeding emotions that you see. Well, does that excite you, George? Yeah, and it'll go on and on. But what happens is we become humans, because we are. And what we do is we like to relate the story. Oh, well, if you think that pisses you off, let me tell you about me. And then I go on and on about what pissed me off. And I go, there, feel better now? Because I feel good. And I feel good because I just talked about myself. We had a general at the Pentagon. We called him General Bigger, Better, Faster. No matter what story you had, he had one bigger, better, faster. He didn't care about you. He wasn't interested in you. But you have to mirror the emotion that you see. And try it on your kids. It works amazing. Now, you overdo it like I did with my kids. They're like, oh, you're doing that thing. Yeah, I'm happy, Dad. I'm mad, Dad, you know. All right, so the next one is also out of Covey. Have you ever heard of an emotional bank account? An emotional bank account. There are deposits and there are withdrawals. So, debits, they're on the left, right? So you got deposits and withdrawals. So what would be a deposit in an emotional bank account? Huh? Praise. If I say, wow, great job on that project you just did. I'm going to say something nice about you. I'm going to say, wow, you look nice today. I mean, I'm going to pay you a compliment. So those all kind of feed in. Or you know what, I'm going to bring you a leadership book. And let me tell you also, I ran into a major at the Pentagon just last week, and we were talking about that Fulgham guy. She told me I deployed twice. Each time he sent me a note and a leadership book. That's pretty cool. I was just glad he started buying his own damn books. But deposits, I know I'm running out of time. Deposits are like clear communication, so everyone's on the same page. Attending to the little things like being kind, friendly, personable, talking to George when he's down, saying, hey man, let me buy you a cup of coffee. Compliments, showing attention, smiling, appreciation, recognition. They all go into the deposit. And you have to put them in there without looking for withdrawal, or they won't be true deposits, right? If I know you're doing that for something, then it's really not worth as much. You with me? But withdrawals might be, you made a mistake. You weren't present when I was talking to you. You were like playing with your stupid phone, as my wife has told me a number of times. You criticized me. You weren't interested in me. You're asking for a favor, which is okay, but understand that's a withdrawal, and you got to have stuff on this side of the ledger because it's an emotional bank account. And we all have those accounts with people. But if you think of it like that, but do it for the right reasons, it can't be wrong. Oh, whoop. I'm a professional. So I saw this the other day and I have to share it. So you know this is a we thing, right? You know, talking unity of effort. And you've heard that, you know, team doesn't have an I in it. You heard that? Because it's a we thing. So you've heard team doesn't have an I, this is a we thing. Well, the I in team is the a-hole. And you know, that's so true from so many ways. And I know you've heard Chip talk about this, and I didn't think of him because of that. Oh, that's going to get back to him. But you've heard him say, when you make it about yourself, nothing good happens. It's got to be team. It's got to be a we thing. All right. So the last one I already talked about it. It's set high expectations for your folks. Remember, if you set expectations here and then give them the love and support and guidance and every now and again one of those, man, they're going to do amazing things. They're going to surprise themselves with what they can accomplish. And I'm here to tell you that people believe in themselves more when someone else believes in them too. Think about that. People believe in themselves more when someone else believes in them too. So I just rattled off another 10 or so ways of taking care of people. I encourage you to come up with your list. You're welcome to use my list from taking care of people too, and taking care of people the other one. But come up with your list and put it on a yellow sticky. Put it on your computer. Remember it so that you can improve upon it each day as you do it deliberately each day. I'm going to be back tomorrow. Have a great day today, though. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Please reconvene in your breakout session rooms at 12:10. And if you don't know where that is, it's on the back of your badge.